Well, welcome to the WELLth Agora. It's a place where we can have really great conversations. Today, what I want to do is go over the 7 intentions of the WELLth movement. So this would be more of a presentation for you, with you, and you can certainly add comments, and I can take a look at what you're asking and answer. So these intentions are what I outlined for myself so that they would guide me in figuring out how to best serve you, to be with you, but also to answer my own calling. One of the things that I have found in my conversations with persons around the world is a couple of things that are happening, especially those who are olders. Those who are 55 plus years young. I call them olders. And there's words that get associated with them, like retirement or aging or elderly. These are words that sort of creep into our lives. And being one who's on the 69th rotation around the sun, I said, which words would I want to use to explain and describe what's going on for me in being for the world, with the planet, and from the whole. And that's what got me started down this path of identifying these 7 intentions. Now, what they are sort of guideposts to help you, because maybe you're experiencing some of the same things that have happened for me. A little confusion, unclear about where I'm going with my life. There was a time there that I sort of, in some ways, hit the bottom, and I said, well, I guess there's no way down. There's no more down. So where do I go? Well, I can go out or I can go up. So I decided to go up and out and sort of experience the world from that perspective. Some people might call that I found my calling, my purpose, and that's what it is that is unfolding for me through the WELLth movement. Sometimes I've heard, and this again has happened to me, is that there's this noise out there, this information overload. There's this and that that's pulling and pushing and doing all these kind of things. I call it noise deafening. And I have to cut through some of that and take away out of my life certain things that I was listening to and say, nope, I'm not going to go down that path. Conversations with some people who I thought were friends who weren't. They were attempting to influence me to their way of looking at living life. And I just said, nope, I'm not going to go down that road. And I listened more to my own sense of well-being and well-living, and got through this noise deafening that was taking place, and found this, what I call the news. And that has really helped me. And that news is spelled NEWSS. I'm going to shoot another video about that another time. But I also had to sort of dig into my wealth springs of wisdom. Over the years, I've done lots of writing and publishing books, offering courses. And sometimes I didn't always take my own insights to heart. I was creating them because maybe someone asked me to do it, but I wasn't necessarily in taking it in and folding it into myself. So I started paying attention and went back through everything that I've created over the years. And I went, wow, there's some really beautiful writing here. There's some aesthetics that I could tap into. There's some value here. There's some worth and truth and utility. And I started to unpack all of it again. And I said, you know what? I think I have a path forward for my calling. So I created this pathway, the WELLth movement, and it's starting to unfold in a way that my hands, heart, and head are harmonizing, and it's really wonderful. So today, what I wanted to do is to share with you some of these insights that I think will be of importance to you, and I call them the intentions, the 7 intentions. And what I want to do is to be able to give you a sense of what these are about, so that they may have some meaning for you as well. So I'll be using this slide. I'm only going to have the one slide up. And I think that you'll notice is that there's almost a nestedness that goes through them. And I'm going to make a really important point at the end. So if you stay with me, that would be great. Now, you'll notice it says, we invite elders to be elders. Who? Now, the word invite is important here because I could say we help, we guide, but I wanted to work with WELLth Movement from a perspective of invitation. And that's where I want to go with it. And the invite is to you to see if there's a way in which we could interact, collaborate, integrate. I would love to learn from you as well. And this notion of elders, shared at the beginning, this idea of 55 plus years young, some people call us elders. And I sort of said, okay, what could I do with that? And I thought, elders, hang on, there's that OE mix. And that's what unfolded for me. And so the sense of elders. Now, elders here is not to take away from the use of the word in some other social cultural organizations or, excuse me, peoples around the world. That's not my intention. I also look at elders. There's a tree called elder. And I thought, hang on a minute. If I went from older to elder, and I thought about it more as a tree, but there is the sense of someone who has wisdom and is willing to share it. I just thought that was a kind of an interesting mix from elders to elders, including the trees. And that just kept unfolding and unfolding for me. And that's where I came to, is understanding these 7 intentions. So let's go through them. Just to let you know, each one I will create its own video, and there will be books and handouts and videos and courses around them as well, some in combination, some individual. So let's see what we've got here. So we invite elders to be elders who share the legacy they intend to live and leave. Now, the notion here is share, but again, for many of us, we have to discover, shape it, and share it. And that's one of the ways that we work with you, interact with you, is to discover, shape, so that you can share the legacy. Legacy is about the useful what's that you gift others so they can learn something from your lived experience. The useful what's are time, effort, and money. And they can learn how it is that you're using them, why you're using them in the ways that you are. And because of your lived experience and bringing it together, it's a way for them to learn from you. Now, that legacy may actually end up, for some people, it might be a wing of a hospital. Other people, it might be an autobiography. Another person might be a garden. There's many ways in which to take a look at legacy. But what's important here is that it's about you intend to live. In other words, living in your legacy so that you have a sense of living from it so that you can then leave it. Sometimes people link legacy about what you leave behind and don't really think about it. But for myself, I went, if I'm going to work on my legacy and I want to share it, then let me live it, live my life in ways that bring it out so that I can enjoy this legacy story. I can enjoy my time, effort, and money, and not leave it to someone speaking about it at my funeral or my ceremony of leaving. So that's where share the legacy they intend to live and leave. The second one is to serve as a mentor because of lived experience. So this lived experience that you have from this legacy that you are unfolding and bringing and being for the world, with the planet, from the whole, one of the ways in which you can interact with persons is as a mentor of that lived experience. And mentor is a really great way of entering into being with others from an education perspective, because mentor, from a very simple way of looking at it, mentor refers to being able to share with others your wisdom because of the questions that the mentee, the person who's interacting with you, is asking you, and you're answering those questions. And from that, you and the mentee personally grow. And depending on how long that interaction is for, it is a way in which to help each other, guide each other, invite each other into this learning and growth and development. And I think it's really important to take a look at the way in which you educate, because it goes with the following saying: when you listen, you learn. Where you share, you educate. And mentor is one of the ways. There are 11 more, and there's a book coming out about them. A great place to start is mentor. And we also have the international mentoring community that's connected with us, and it's a way in which to get certified as a mentor. And if you don't want to go down the route of certification, that even just going in and learning about the ways to mentor, this mentoring process, it's a great place to get involved. And in the show more notes or notes around the video, you'll find more information. The next one is to walk with nature as their educator. So for olders to be elders, to walk with nature as their educator, is placing this notion of time outdoors, the effort of walking outdoors, sometimes a little bit of money is spent to get a good pair of shoes. I appreciate that. But this notion of being with nature as educator is really, really important. And there's a couple of ways of looking at it. One is you could look at nature as a self-care companion. Time outside, there are benefits for being out there. There are terms like forest bathing, but there's also ideas of just the walking and sitting with the trees and listening to the whispers of the wind and feeling the ground underneath you and just being there with the trees. There's something to be said for that companionness that is available to you. But the other thing is that nature is a really wonderful living systems educator. So if regeneration, rewilding, terms like this are important to you, about looking at what's happening with the planet, what's happening with the air, the land, the oceans, and you want to get involved with them, then nature is a wonderful living systems educator that you can work with. Now, we'll be creating some courses and books around walking, but also around nature. Some journals will be created that prompt you to think about, feel this notion of nature in your life and encourage activities of getting outside. The next one is experience the extraordinary because of their wealth decisions. Now, wealth decisions are about well-being and well-living, well-being for yourself and well-living with others. So this notion of health and wellness, as there is about wealth and experiences that you have when you're interacting with others or interacting with the world, for the world. And the notion of the experience is what you have collected. But to get to that point, you need to experience it. And to get to the point of to experience it is you have to set up in your own head, heart, and hands, experience. So some people call them vacations. They say, well, this is where we're going to go. Sometimes they are just laid back vacations, sand and surf. Some people go on these really wonderful walking vacations, and some of them might take a long time. Some people go on museum experiences, and they want to go see what's actually happening about what's taking place. So the idea here is, how do you experience the extraordinary because of your wealth decisions? And therefore, decision-making is an important element of being wealthy. And we will be bringing out programs about decision-making, ethical decision-making, environmental decision-making, ecological decision-making, but also how do you create these experiences, not only for yourself, but with your family and friends and colleagues, and maybe even the community? So let's see what happens with those. The next one is the value, the safety of movement for self with others. So I've been speaking about the notion of well living with others, well-being for self, and there is a movement that's associated with that. And let me just share from the perspective of movement. There is sort of like layers of movement. There's the physical aspect of movement, walking, running, cycling, as there is a continuum up through social cultural movement. Remember, I mentioned about things to do with the environment, air and land and sea, projects and programs you can get involved with. So the notion of the physicality of movement all the way up into how do I might look at the social cultural. So the physicality of well-being, the notion of social cultural movement around well living. But to do this, it's important to have a safety perspective, to value safety, to do no harm to yourself and to others, to the planet. And a way in which to look at this is thinking about it from sort of three main ideas. I call it the preparation checklist. If you're going to walk in the outer doors, what preparation do you need? If you're going to interact with others, maybe there's some preparation you have to get into. Another one is a prevention mindset, prevention backpack. If you're going for a walk, maybe what do you carry with you? If you're going into a meeting, what is it you have to think through? What are you carrying with you to be ready to deal with what unfolds in the meeting? And the third one is the practice continuance. In other words, sometimes you have to keep practicing and practicing. If being a mentor is one of the ways in which you want to interact with others, then being able to practice and reflect on what it means to be a mentor. If you're someone who's running courses, how to run courses, the practice of writing. Sometimes the first draft isn't the only draft of your autobiography, and you have to get into the practice and be involved with it. And to be able to value that safety, that notion of growth and development, it's really important because guess what? If you think of it this way, if you're into growth and development, then a safety is sort of an outcome. But if you're in safety and a safety approach, then personal development and growth is an outcome. So there's a sort of mutuality here that serves you. And the more that you're into continuous learning, continuous improvement, the more you have to understand about what's unfolding, the movement that's unfolding, but also the value of safety for you. The next one is resource support for nature-aware green programs and projects. I've been hinting at it in terms of what you might do from a legacy point of view and sharing your lived experience and nature being an educator. And if you want to do things with nature and to be involved with nature from a movement point of view, there is an importance of resource support. Now, if you remember, time, effort, and money, I've been mentioning. The time that you give volunteering into providing resource support for nature-aware programs and projects. And maybe you become an activist or an actionist. There are ways to look at it that way. But there's also the time and the effort that you give, all right? There may be money involved as well in terms of supporting it. And for example, a lot of what it is that I am creating in the WELLth Movement in terms of books and courses, a good portion of that is going towards some programs and projects that are nature aware, that are green, that are nature inspired, nature informed, that I would like to support, and thus I can help you understand those, but maybe you can help me understand the ones that are important to you. We find ways in which to assist each other. And then the last one I wanted to take a look at, and this is one where I really reached out into the whole, and I said, to myself, if I was to invite olders to be elders who live life answering the question, whole is it it? That would be important, because that's a question I ask myself, and it's a new question. I get that. Why and how and when and where, but whole is it. And the idea here is to take a look at whole as my life, to live life from this notion of fitness. Yes, there's the movement fitness, but there's also what is the fit? What does my life lead to? The legacy I live, yes. But my life, living my life, it unfolds for some reason. And sometimes it's into the mystery. I don't know everything that's going on. And therefore I said, well, whole is it, because as it unfolds, I can give it an it being a pronoun. It, that's what's going on. But I also figured out that that it with a capital IT is also what's unfolding for me as I am experiencing it. That's the it. I can go, wow, this is kind of neat. And then as I reflect on that it, the capitalized I and T, I went, that's insights into I transition. So this notion of whole is it is to give me a sense of something I'm bringing into my life out of the whole that fulfills all the other intentions, that allows me to experience it from a place of I transition, and my life is a greater contribution. But I get to appreciate it because it's actually happening with me, because of me, through me, from me. And I went, that's really great. And thus the question, whole is it, came to the foreground for me. And I thought that it would be a great intention, and it'll take me a little bit more to explain it and describe it and bring it to the foreground. But I think it adds to the why, the how, the where, the when, the who, these other aspects, these other kind of questions, the what questions. And I just went, I think it's something I want to bring out through WELLth Movement. And I have been known to create new words. I get that. That's just one of the things about me. And as you get to know me, this is just a really wonderful way to be involved in play. And play is really wonderful to learn. And when you learn, you get to know. And when you get to know things, you can do things. And that's what's happening here and what's unfolding here. And therefore, I invite olders to be elders who are willing to do these things. And if that's you, please join in the show more notes. There's ways in which to contact us. You can certainly subscribe, ring the bell, and comment. Is there something here that you want to expand on? I'd be happy to do that with you. I think I'm finding myself to a point where I'll close this video down. And as I go out, I just remind you, when you listen, you learn. Where you share, you educate. Take care.